Welcome to Revisit Books podcast, where we turn books into bite-sized wisdom you can use every day. So let me start by asking you something. Have you ever, worked incredibly hard for a big goal? Maybe a promotion, finishing some huge project, hitting a financial target. And you get there and you expect this wave of happiness, right? But it's just not there. Or maybe it lasts like 5 minutes. And suddenly the goalposts have shifted again. There's already the next thing you have to achieve. It happens because we're kind of fed this idea, this formula. Work hard, become successful, then you'll be happy. But what if that whole equation is flawed? What if it's actually holding us back? That's really the core, the revolutionary idea in Shawn Achor's book, The Happiness Advantage. The 7 principles of positive psychology that fuel success and performance at work. Achor just flips that common wisdom on its head. And today, we're going to explore his work, look at the evidence, and see how happiness isn't the reward for success. It's actually the fuel that gives you that competitive edge.
Exactly. Achor calls it a Copernican revolution in psychology. It basically forces us to rethink everything we thought we knew about what drives performance.
Okay, let's break that down. What's this broken formula that we all seem to absorb?
Well, it's everywhere, isn't it? You hear it from schools, companies, maybe even your parents trying to help. The message is clear. Work hard, get successful, then comes the happiness.
It sounds logical on the surface.
It does. That's why it's so pervasive. It feels like the default setting, especially in, Western culture.
But Achor says this system basically sets us up to fail because success keeps moving.
Precisely. If your happiness is always pegged to the next achievement, the next raise, the next title, you're always chasing it. You never actually arrive.
Right. You hit the target and your brain immediately says, okay, what's next? What's bigger?
Exactly. Psychologists call it the arrival fallacy. You think reaching the destination will make you happy, but happiness stays just over the horizon.
So what did Achor's research actually find? How does feeling good actually impact how we perform?
The research, pulling from positive psychology and neuroscience, it shows the relationship is reversed. Happiness isn't just a nice-to-have for after work. It's a powerful driver. When your brain is in a positive state, it actually functions much, much better.
How so?
Well, you're more motivated, you learn faster, you're more efficient, more resilient when things go wrong, creativity spikes, productivity goes up. Basically, being positive first is what drives performance upward. That's the essence of the happiness advantage.
And it's interesting that Achor developed these ideas at Harvard, right? A place we usually associate with, well, ultimate success.
It is fascinating. He spent 12 years there, living and teaching. But he noticed something unexpected, a kind of unhappiness epidemic.
Among some of the brightest, most successful students in the world.
Yes. Externally, they were crushing it. But internally, Achor pointed out that depression rates among students were like 10 times higher than they were back in the 1960s. The pressure was immense.
So that must have been a turning point for him. He didn't just study the struggle, he looked at who wasn't struggling.
Exactly. Traditional psychology often asks, what's wrong? He decided to ask, what's right? He studied about 1,600 Harvard students, but focused intensely on the outliers.
The ones who were genuinely thriving.
Right. Maybe 1 in 5 students who were really flourishing. He wanted to know what made them different. What was their secret? What gave them that edge?
And crucially, this wasn't just some Harvard bubble phenomenon. He found these principles worked everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. He tested this stuff globally. We're talking 40 countries, 5 continents, Fortune 500 companies, yes, but also Wall Street firms right after the 2008 crash. Even places under extreme stress, like organizations in Zimbabwe, when their currency collapsed.
Yeah.
The principles held up because they're about internal shifts, not external circumstances.
And he distilled all that research into 7 specific principles, actionable things you can do to basically retrain your brain.
They are. The happiness advantage itself, then the fulcrum and the lever, the Tetris effect, falling up, the Zorro circle, the 20-second rule, and finally, social investment.
We're going to dig into these.
Yeah, they're the practical toolkit. The idea is to use them consistently to raise your baseline level of happiness, which then lifts your potential for success.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's pivot slightly. Who really needs to hear this? If you're listening, maybe you're already driven, maybe you're already successful. Why focus on happiness first?
Well, this is really critical for anyone who feels, stressed, overwhelmed, or importantly, anyone who's stuck in that rut of just trying to fix the negative. Think about traditional psychology for a minute. For decades, its main goal was basically pathology. How do we get someone from feeling really bad, say -2, back up to 0, back to normal.
And you mentioned there was a huge imbalance in the research focus.
It was staggering, really. Until the late 90s, for every one study on happiness or resilience, there were like 17 studies on depression, anxiety, trauma, all the negative stuff.
But just getting rid of the bad doesn't automatically make you happy, does it? It just makes you not depressed.
Average. Exactly. You can study gravity forever, understand exactly how things fall, but that won't teach you how to fly. To learn to fly, you have to study the things that are flying. If all we aim for is not negative, we just end up average. And for high achievers, average can feel like failure.
Which must be incredibly tough for those Harvard students you mentioned.
Yeah.
They arrive being top of their class everywhere else.
And suddenly, bam, half of them are, statistically speaking, below average within that specific group for the first time ever.
And shock must be huge.
It is. And the typical reaction often is to retreat. They feel the pressure, so they think, I need to work harder, study more.
So they isolate themselves, cut off social ties.
Precisely. They skip meals with friends, stop calling home, lock themselves away. It's a terrible trade-off because they sacrifice the biggest predictor of long-term success and resilience, their social support system.
Believing that isolation is the key to success when it's actually the opposite.
It undermines their long-term potential. And we see the same pattern in demanding professions too, right? Especially fields that inherently focus on negativity.
Like lawyers, you mentioned them.
Lawyers are a classic example. The research consistently shows they suffer depression at rates more than 3 times the average. Why? Because their training is all about finding flaws. They're taught to be critical, spot risks, analyze weaknesses, poke holes in arguments. It's essential for their job.
But that critical lens doesn't just switch off at 5 p.m.
No way. It bleeds into their personal life. They start analyzing their relationships, their kids, everything through that same critical filter. It fosters anxiety, pessimism.
But the good news is this mindset isn't fixed. You mentioned the KPMG study with the auditors.
Yeah, that was a great test. They did this positive psychology training with a group of KPMG auditors right before the crazy busy tax season in 2008, high-stress environment. Compared to the control group, the auditors who got the training reported significantly higher life satisfaction, less stress, even though the workload and deadlines were exactly the same.
So the training acted like a psychological buffer.
Like an inoculation against the stress. It showed these mental habits, this focus, can be changed, even in deeply ingrained professional mindsets.
Which really brings us to the bedrock science behind all this. Neuroplasticity, the idea that our brains can actually change.
It's fundamental. For a long time, the prevailing idea, what Achor jokingly calls the Western unicorn, was that your brain pretty much sets like concrete after childhood.
But we know now that's just not true.
Not at all. Neuroscience has proven definitively the brain is malleable. It can rewire itself, form new connections, even change physically throughout our entire lives.
The London taxi driver study is amazing evidence for that, isn't it?
It really is. To get their license, London cabbies have to pass the knowledge. It means memorizing something like 25,000 streets, 20,000 landmarks. It takes years, and researchers found these drivers literally have larger hippocampi. That's the part of the brain crucial for spatial memory than other people.
Their brains physically changed because of the mental training.
Exactly. The intense, focused training built new neural pathways actually grew brain matter. So if you can physically change your brain by memorizing streets...
You can definitely change it to be more positive and resilient.
Absolutely. The question isn't if we can change, it's how much change is possible with deliberate effort. And Achor's principles give us the roadmap for that.
Okay, let's dive into those principles. Key takeaway 1 is the big one. Principle #1, the happiness advantage itself. What's the core biological proof here?
The fundamental idea is that a positive brain is a biologically better performing brain. It's not just a feeling, there's real physiological advantage. When you're feeling positive, it activates different neural pathways. It broadens your attention, makes you more open to new ideas, boosts creativity, helps you process complex information more effectively.
Got any specific examples? Those stats really hit home.
Okay, think about doctors making diagnoses. Studies found that if doctors were put in a slightly positive mood first, maybe they read something funny or got a small piece of candy, simple things, they made accurate diagnoses 19% faster.
Wow, 19% faster and more accurate.
And they showed almost 3 times more intelligence and creativity in how they approach the problem compared to doctors in a neutral state.
So a little bit of positivity isn't fluff, it's a performance enhancer.
Directly. And look at sales. Optimistic salespeople consistently outsell their pessimistic colleagues, sometimes by huge margins, like 56% in some studies. And this isn't just work. Happiness predicts success in almost every area. Health, relationships, longevity, creativity. The link is incredibly strong.
You also mentioned the undoing effect. How does positivity help us physically recover from stress?
Right, the undoing effect. So negative emotions, fear, anger, stress, they narrow our focus. Think fight or flight. Useful for escaping a tiger, but terrible for solving complex problems. Positive emotions do the opposite. They broaden our mindset, our thought-action repertoire, as Barbara Fredrickson calls it, and they also seem to physiologically counteract the stress response.
They tested this by stressing people out, right? Classic psychology experiment.
Huh, yeah. They'd have people do something stressful, like give an impromptu speech while being filmed. Heart rate goes up, blood pressure spikes. Standard stress reaction. Then, they showed different groups, different film clips. Some saw joyful or content clips, others neutral, others sad. The ones who watched the positive clips, their heart rates and blood pressure returned to normal significantly faster.
So the positive emotions literally helped undo the physical effects of the stress.
Exactly. It's like a quick reset button for your nervous system.
So the takeaway here is those small positive actions, watching a quick funny video, calling a friend, taking a moment for gratitude, they aren't distractions from serious work. They're actually strategic tools to boost your brain power and resilience.
Precisely. They're scientifically validated ways to improve performance.
Okay, that leads nicely into key takeaway 2, principle #2, the fulcrum and the lever. This feels more about perception, about mindset.
It is. It draws on Archimedes' idea. Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum, and I can move the world. Achor uses this as a metaphor for potential. Your mindset, your belief system, your perspective, that's the fulcrum. The lever is the amount of potential power you believe you have.
So if you shift the fulcrum,
If you shift the fulcrum to a more positive, empowered mindset, the lever becomes much more powerful. Your potential isn't fixed. It's magnified by your mindset.
our subjective reality shapes our objective results. That's a big idea.
It really is. We tend to think reality is just out there fixed, but our experience of it is filtered through our brain. The hotel maid study is a perfect illustration of this.
Right. Tell us about that one.
Okay, so researchers looked at hotel maids. These women do physically demanding work all day, vacuuming, scrubbing, lifting, walking miles, definitely exercise by any objective measure. But most of them didn't think of it as exercise, they just saw it as work. And because of that mindset, they weren't getting the full health benefits you'd expect.
So what did the researchers do?
They took one group of maids and simply educated them. They explained how their daily activities met or exceeded the Surgeon General's recommendations for an active lifestyle. They framed the work as exercise. The other group, the control group, got no information. Both groups kept doing the exact same work.
And the results?
After just a few weeks, the group that was told their work was exercise showed significant improvements. They lost weight, their blood pressure dropped, their body fat percentage decreased, BMI improved, all without changing their actual activity or diet.
Just because their mindset about the activity changed.
Exactly. Their belief changed their physical reality. It's incredible proof that mindset isn't just fluff. It has tangible biological consequences.
This must connect to how we view our jobs too, right?
Yeah.
Whether we see it as just a job or something more.
Absolutely. Achor talks about 3 work orientations. A job is just about the paycheck, a means to an end. A career is focused on advancement, power, prestige. But a calling is different. That's when you see your work as intrinsically fulfilling, using your strengths, contributing to something bigger than yourself.
And people with a calling are generally happier and perform better.
Consistently. They find more meaning, they're more engaged, more resilient. But the fascinating thing is, it's often less about the actual tasks and more about the meaning you ascribe to them.
So a hospital janitor who sees their role as crucial for patient safety might have more of a calling than a CEO who only cares about the bottom line.
Precisely. It's about perception. And you can actively cultivate that sense of calling through job crafting.
How did that work? Is there an exercise for that?
Yeah, Achor suggests the arrow exercise. Take a task you find mundane or meaningless, maybe filling out expense reports, write it down. Then draw an arrow to the right and ask, what does this task enable? Maybe it ensures budget accuracy. Okay, draw another arrow. What does that enable? Maybe it keeps the department funded. Keep drawing arrows, connecting the task to bigger and bigger purposes until you link that small action to a larger goal or value that resonates with you personally.
So expense reports, budget accuracy to department funding, ability to serve clients, effectively helping people solve problems, something like that.
Exactly. You connect the dots from the mundane to the meaningful. It reframes the task, gives it purpose, and leverages meaning to boost your motivation and satisfaction.
Okay, so if the fulcrum is mindset, key takeaway 3, principle #3, the Tetris effect, seems to be about training that mindset, specifically training it to see the positive.
That's right. The Tetris effect comes from the video game. After playing Tetris for hours, people start seeing falling blocks everywhere and patterns on the wall when they close their eyes.
A cognitive afterimage, he calls it.
Exactly. Your brain gets locked into that pattern scanning mode. The problem is, many professionals get stuck in a negative Tetris effect.
Because their job requires them to look for errors, like the auditors you mentioned.
Auditors, lawyers, editors, quality control inspectors, people who spend all day scanning for mistakes, flaws, problems. That critical scanning becomes their brain's default setting. It doesn't just turn off when they leave work. Achor tells the story of an auditor who literally made an Excel spreadsheet of his wife's mistakes. He couldn't switch off the error detection mode.
Oh, wow. That constant focus on the negative must make people more prone to anxiety and depression, right?
Definitely. It creates a negative cognitive bias. You become really good at spotting problems, but you start missing the positives. This ties into inattentional blindness.
The gorilla experiment.
The classic gorilla experiment. People are asked to watch a video and count basketball passes between players in white shirts. While they're intensely focused on counting, a person in a full gorilla suit walks into the middle of the scene, beats their chest, and walks off. And afterwards?
Almost half the people don't see the gorilla at all.
Because they weren't looking for it. Their attention was so narrowly focused on the task counting passes, or in life, spotting errors, that they literally became blind to something massive and unexpected right in front of them.
So if your brain is programmed only to look for the negative, the positives might as well not exist.
That's the danger. You filter them out. But the reverse is also true. When you train your brain to scan for the positive opportunities, things you're grateful for, successes, you start to see them everywhere. This fuels optimism. And optimists, the research shows, just do better.
How so? What are the tangible benefits of optimism?
Well, optimists tend to set more ambitious goals. When they face setbacks, they see them as temporary and specific, not permanent and pervasive. So they put in more effort, persist longer. They bounce back quicker because they frame failure as a learning opportunity, not a personal failing. Remember that experiment with the lucky and unlucky people in the newspaper?
Yeah, tell us that one again.
Okay, researchers gave people who identified as either lucky or unlucky a newspaper and asked them to count the photos inside. The unlucky people took a couple of minutes carefully counting each photo. The lucky people finished in second.
Why? What did the lucky people see?
Because they were scanning the whole page, open to possibilities. On page 2, there was a huge message printed. Stop counting. There are 43 photographs in this newspaper. The unlucky people, focused only on the task, missed it. And later in the paper, another huge missive offered $250 to anyone who pointed it out to the researcher. Again, the lucky people saw the opportunity. The unlucky ones, locked in their narrow focus, missed the reward right under their noses.
Wow, so a negative focus literally makes you miss opportunities for success and reward.
It's a perfect illustration of how our cognitive filters shape our reality.
Thinking about setbacks and how optimists frame them leads us to key takeaway 4, principle #4, falling up. This is about how we handle failure and crisis, isn't it?
Yes. Falling up is about the idea that adversity doesn't just have to be survived. It can actually be a catalyst for growth. It suggests there's a third path beyond just failure or getting back to normal. That third path is post-traumatic growth, emerging stronger, wiser, more resilient because of the challenge, not just in spite of it.
And the key is how we explain the event to ourselves.
Yeah.
Our explanatory style.
Exactly. When something bad happens, our brain automatically generates counterfacts, alternative scenarios. What if this hadn't happened? What if it had been worse? Achor uses the example of 2 people shot in the arm during a bank robbery. One calls himself unlucky. His counterfact is, what if I hadn't been there? He focuses on the loss.
And the other calls himself lucky.
Right. His counterfact is, what if I'd been shot in the head? Or what if others were hurt worse? Because we invent these counterfacts, we have the power to choose the one that makes us feel grateful, resilient, empowered, rather than victimized.
So falling up is about consciously choosing the positive counterfact, deliberately reframing the narrative.
Precisely. It's actively constructing a story that emphasizes survival, learning, and strength gained from the experience.
That makes sense. It redirects the mental energy away from helplessness towards problem solving.
It reclaims a sense of control, which is vital. And that feeling of control is central to key takeaway 5, principle #5, the Zorro Circle.
This one is about feeling overwhelmed, right? When everything feels too big to handle.
Yeah. When we face huge, seemingly insurmountable challenges, maybe a work crisis, financial stress, global uncertainty, our rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, Achor calls it the thinker, can get completely overwhelmed. The emotional, reactive part of the brain, the limbic system, the jerk, as Achor puts it, takes over. Panic, fear, helplessness set in. Rational thought shuts down.
So the Zorro Circle is a way to regain control, to calm the jerk and get the thinker back online.
Exactly. It comes from the story of Zorro's training. When the young, impulsive Alejandro was failing, his mentor didn't make him practice fighting armies. He drew a small circle in the dirt. Master this space first, he said. Control, competence, confidence, they start small. You regain emotional equilibrium by focusing your energy on one small, manageable area where you can have an impact.
That feeling of being in control is just fundamentally important for our well-being, isn't it?
It's one of the biggest drivers. Feeling like your actions matter, like you have agency, is crucial for motivation, performance, even health. The nursing home study is powerful evidence of this.
Oh yeah, tell us about that one. The results were kind of shocking.
They were. Researchers went into a nursing home. They gave one group of residents more control over small aspects of their daily lives, choosing activities, deciding when to receive visitors, even just taking care of a houseplant. The control group got the same level of excellent care, but without that added element of personal choice and responsibility.
And the difference was life and death.
Literally. Over the next 18 months, the group that was given more control had a mortality rate that was half that of the control group. Just feeling in control over small things had a profound impact on their health and longevity.
Incredible. So how do we apply the Zorro Circle when we feel overwhelmed at work or in life?
2 steps. First, self-awareness. Acknowledge the stress. Name it. Talk about it. Write it down. Just verbalizing the emotional overwhelm helps lessen its grip. It engages the thinker. Second, define your circle. Identify one small, specific, manageable goal where you know your effort will make a difference, something you can control.
Like the example of the copywriter during the company crisis.
Exactly. She felt overwhelmed by all the company's problems, sales, strategy, finances, things she couldn't fix. So she drew her Zorro Circle very small. I will focus only on making the copy that I write as excellent as possible. My focus gave her back a sense of control, boosted her confidence. It's the principle of Kaizen, continuous small improvements. Those small wins build momentum and eventually have a larger impact.
Okay, so we have these great principles, but making them stick is the challenge. Which brings us to key takeaway 6, principle #6, the 20-second rule. Why is it so hard to follow through on things we know are good for us?
Basically, because willpower isn't infinite. It's more like a muscle. It gets tired with overuse.
It's a limited resource.
Very limited. And when it's depleted, what do? We default to the easiest option, the path of least resistance. Usually that means passive stuff like scrolling social media or watching TV, not the proactive habits we intend to do.
The radish and cookie experiment showed this, right?
Yeah.
That willpower gets used up.
Yeah, it's a great demonstration. They had students sit in a room with fresh-baked cookies and also some radishes. Some students were told to eat the cookies, others were forced to resist the cookies and eat the radishes instead. Resisting those cookies took real willpower. Afterwards, both groups were given a difficult, unrelated puzzle to solve. The students who had forced themselves to eat radishes and resist the cookies, they gave up on the puzzle much faster.
Their willpower muscle was already tired out.
Exactly. They'd used up their self-control reserves on the radishes.
And Achor experienced this himself, trying to build a guitar habit.
He did. He wanted to practice guitar daily, but he kept it in the closet. Just the tiny effort, walking over, opening the door, taking it out, tuning it maybe 20 seconds total, that little bit of activation energy was enough of a barrier that he rarely did it.
So what did he change?
He took the guitar out of the closet and put it on a stand right in his living room. He reduced the activation energy to practically 0. The result, he practiced guitar for 21 days straight.
So the rule is, make good habits easier to start. Lower the barrier.
Lower the activation energy for the habits you want to build. Make them the path of least resistance. And crucially, do the opposite for bad habits.
Make the bad habits harder to do. Raise the activation energy.
Precisely. Think about Ted in Hong Kong, the manager who couldn't stop checking email and stocks. Technology makes those distractions incredibly easy, right? One click, low activation energy. The solution wasn't just willpower, it was making the distraction inconvenient, a total pain in the ass, as Achor says.
How do they do that?
They made him close his email program completely after each use. delete saved passwords, so we had to type them in, move the program shortcuts into deep nested folders. Each extra step, each additional second of effort created friction. It made the path of least resistance lean back towards working, not checking email.
That momentary pause gives your rational brain a chance to intervene.
Exactly. It interrupts the automatic habit loop.
And this applies to things like exercise, too. Reducing choices.
Definitely. Making decisions drains willpower. So if you want to exercise in the morning, lay out your gym clothes the night before, or even sleep in them. Hey, it works for some people. It removes the decision point in the morning. You wake up, but the clothes are on. The path of least resistance suddenly points towards the gym, not back to bed. You're hacking your own laziness.
Okay, so we've covered mindset, reframing failure, building habits by managing activation energy. But Achor emphasizes this isn't just an individual journey, right? Which leads to the final principle we'll highlight, principle #7, social investment.
Yeah, this is absolutely crucial. Social connection isn't just nice, it's essential. Achor argues, based on tons of research, that social relationships are our single greatest asset for both success and well-being. One huge analysis concluded we need social bonds like we need food and air. They're fundamental to thriving.
This loops back perfectly to the Harvard students isolating themselves under pressure.
It does. They were trading away their most valuable resource. Achor uses a great football analogy. Your social support network, friends, family, mentors, colleagues, they're like your offensive line.
Protecting the quarterback.
Exactly. They absorb pressure, buffer stress, provide encouragement, help you see solutions you wouldn't see alone. You recover from setbacks faster, achieve more, feel better when you have a strong social net.
So investing time in relationships isn't taking time away from work. It's actually investing in your capacity to succeed.
It's arguably the best investment you can make for productivity and resilience. It gives you an immediate happiness boost and builds long-term capacity. And that positivity, that support, it's contagious.
Emotional contagion, mirror neurons.
Right. We're biologically wired to pick up on and reflect the emotions of people around us. If you're surrounded by negativity, it drags you down. But the flip side is powerful. Positivity is incredibly contagious too.
Like that study where they put one deliberately positive person on a team?
Yeah. That one person intentionally expressing optimism and support measurably improved the mood, cooperation, and overall performance of the entire group. Your positive mindset doesn't just benefit you, it ripples outwards. It can genuinely lift the people around you, your team, your family, your friends. It fuels creativity and collaboration.
So bringing it all together, we've seen how happiness fuels success, not the other way around. We've looked at changing mindset, reframing failure, building habits, and leveraging social support. What's the final big takeaway message from Achor's work?
I think it comes down to the cumulative power, the ripple effect. We talked about the principles as tools to raise your happiness baseline, which raises your potential. But the final thought is maybe best captured by the idea of the butterfly effect.
One small change having huge unforeseen consequences down the line.
Exactly. Implementing just one of these principles, maybe making one good habit 20 seconds easier, or taking 2 minutes to practice gratitude, or consciously reframing one small setback, it might seem tiny, insignificant even. But that one small positive change can initiate an upward spiral. It creates momentum, it leads to other positive changes, which reinforce each other, and the benefits multiply. It starts internally, changing your brain and your experience, but it ripples outward, potentially transforming your team, your organization, even your community. The power to create large-scale positive change really does begin with those small, consistent investments in your own happiness advantage.
That's today's breakdown. While this discussion cannot replace the book's full text, it can offer a glimpse into its teachings. I hope you found this discussion helpful, and I look forward to sharing more. Let me know what book next you want to discuss.